The message came on a Tuesday morning. Captain Daniel Morrison was drinking his third cup of coffee when the alarm sounded across the Discovery. Every screen on the bridge lit up at once, showing the same thing. Someone was trying to talk to them. Daniel put down his cup and walked to the main display. His crew was already working, trying to figure out where the signal was coming from. Commander Lisa Hamilton looked up from her station. Her face was pale. "It is not human," she said quietly. "The signal is coming from outside our solar system. Way outside." Daniel felt his heart beat faster. Humanity had been searching for alien life for centuries. Now it seemed like alien life had found them first. He took a breath and gave the order. "Decode it. Let us see what they want to say." It took 3 hours to translate the message. When Lisa finally played it for the crew, everyone stopped what they were doing to listen. The voice was strange, artificial, like it had been created by a computer to sound friendly, but the words themselves were not friendly at all. "Greetings to the people of Earth," the message began. "We are the Galactic Council. We represent 400 species across this part of the galaxy. We have watched your progress with interest. You have developed faster than light travel. You have begun to explore beyond your home system. It is time for you to join the civilized worlds." Daniel listened carefully. So far it sounded good, but then the message continued and his feeling of hope started to fade. "The galaxy has rules," the voice explained. "War between species is forbidden. All disputes must be brought before the Council for judgment. Military forces are limited to small defense fleets. Weapons of mass destruction are banned. Any species that wishes to travel between stars must follow these laws." Then came the part that made Daniel angry. "You have 30 days to respond to this invitation. If you accept, you will be welcomed into our community. If you refuse, you will be considered a hostile species. Hostile species are not permitted to leave their home systems. Any attempt to do so will be met with force." The message ended with coordinates for a meeting place and instructions for how to signal their acceptance. Then it started repeating from the beginning. Lisa turned off the sound. The bridge was silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. This was not an invitation. It was a demand. "Join us and follow our rules, or stay home and never leave. And if you try to leave anyway, we will stop you by force." Daniel sent the message back to Earth immediately. Within hours, every news channel on the planet was talking about it. Some people were excited. "We are not alone," they said. "This is our chance to join something bigger than ourselves." But others were worried. Admiral Patricia Crawford was one of them. She had spent 30 years building Earth's space fleet. She knew exactly what the Council was asking for. "They want us to disarm," she told the United Nations Assembly. "They want us to throw away everything we have built. And they are threatening us if we do not obey." The debate went on for days. Diplomats argued about the exact meaning of the words. Scientists wanted to study the technology that made the message possible. Military leaders worried about threats from species they knew nothing about. Patricia spoke at every meeting. She was calm but firm. "We do not know these aliens," she said. "We do not know if they are honest or if they are lying. We do not know if their rules are fair or if they only benefit the strong. What we do know is that they are giving us an ultimatum. Obey or else." She paused and looked around the room. Humanity did not become free by obeying ultimatums. We became free by standing up for ourselves. I say we thank them for the message, and then we politely tell them no. The vote was close. Many people wanted to accept. They were afraid of what might happen if Earth refused. But in the end, Patricia's argument won. Humanity would not submit to threats. They would send a response, but it would not be the response the Council expected. Daniel was chosen to write the message. He spent 2 days working on it, trying to find the right words. He wanted to be polite but clear. Earth was grateful for the contact. Humanity looked forward to meeting other species. But Earth would not accept terms that were forced on them. If the Council wanted to negotiate as equals, humanity would be happy to talk. But if the Council expected Earth to simply obey, they would be disappointed. The message was sent on the 28th day. For 2 days, there was no response. People started to hope that maybe the Council would accept Earth's answer. Maybe they would agree to real negotiations. Then the second message arrived. This one was much shorter than the first. "Your refusal has been noted. Economic sanctions will begin immediately. Human ships will not be permitted to use established trade routes. Human communications will be blocked from the galactic network. These measures will remain in place until you accept Council authority. The message continued with a warning. Further defiance will result in enforcement action. You have been warned. Daniel read the message 3 times. He felt anger building in his chest. The Council was trying to punish Earth for saying no. They were treating humanity like children who needed to be disciplined. Like Earth had no right to make its own choices. He called Patricia immediately. She had already seen the message. Her voice was calm when she answered. But Daniel could hear the steel beneath it. So they want to threaten us, she said. Let them try. Call a meeting of all fleet commanders. We have work to do. That night Daniel stood on the observation deck of the Discovery. He looked out at the stars and thought about what was coming. Somewhere out there the Council was waiting. They expected Earth to give in. They thought threats and sanctions would make humanity obey, but they did not understand humans. Humanity had spent thousands of years fighting for freedom. They had overthrown kings and emperors. They had defeated tyrants and dictators. They had never accepted anyone who tried to rule them through fear. The Council thought they were powerful. They probably were. But they had made one big mistake. They had given humanity a choice between freedom and submission, and humanity had always chosen freedom no matter what the cost. Daniel smiled grimly at his reflection in the window. The Council wanted to isolate Earth. They wanted to make humanity feel small and helpless. Instead, they had done something else. They had united every person on Earth against a common threat. They had given humanity a reason to prepare for war. And if the Council ever decided to follow through on their threats, they would discover something important about humanity. Humans might be new to the galaxy. They might be outnumbered. But they were not helpless. And they were definitely not afraid. 6 months passed without a word from the Council. Earth kept sending messages trying to open real negotiations. Every message went unanswered. It was like the Council had decided to pretend humanity did not exist. But Earth was not sitting idle. Admiral Patricia Crawford had launched the biggest military buildup in human history. She called it Project Aegis. Every shipyard in the solar system was working day and night. Mars, the Moon, the stations around Jupiter. All of them were building warships. Colonel Andrew Blake was in charge of the Mars facilities. He had been building ships for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The construction bays ran 24 hours a day. As soon as one ship was finished, another one started. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers. They rolled out one after another in an endless stream. Andrew walked through the main construction bay, watching workers and robots move together like a machine. 3 carriers were being built at the same time. Each one was bigger than a city block. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. A young engineer named Rachel Brooks ran up to him with a tablet. She looked excited. "Colonel, we just finished the latest batch. 20 destroyers ready for crew assignment, and the new dreadnought will be done ahead of schedule." Andrew nodded. "Good work. How many ships total now?" Rachel checked her tablet. 2,418 combat vessels, plus support ships. That brings us to just over 3,000. Andrew smiled. "Keep going. We need more." While the ships were being built, Dr. Christine Palmer was working on weapons. Her research lab was deep under the surface of the moon, hidden from any eyes that might be watching from space. She and her team had been studying every piece of information they could find about the Council. The Council had been talking on open channels for years, apparently not caring if anyone listened. Christine's team had recorded thousands of hours of their communications. From those recordings, they had learned a lot about Council technology. Christine stood in front of a large screen showing a Council warship. It was big and impressive looking, but as she studied it, she saw weaknesses. "Their shields are strong against energy weapons," she explained to her team, "but they seem to rely on that almost completely. Their armor is thin. They do not expect anything to get through their shields." One of her assistants, a young scientist named Peter Grant, raised his hand. "So our kinetic weapons would work?" Christine nodded. "Better than they expect. The Council has been at peace for so long, their weapons have not evolved. They use the same plasma beams they have been using for centuries. Effective but predictable." She pulled up another image. This one showed a human destroyer. Humanity took a different path. "We have railguns that can punch through almost anything. We have missiles with nuclear warheads. We have drone swarms that can overwhelm defense systems." The Council stopped innovating. "We never did." Commander Gregory Hughes was training the crews for all these new ships. He had set up a massive training facility in orbit around Saturn. Thousands of men and women came through every week, learning how to fly, fight, and survive in space combat. Gregory watched a simulation playing out on the main screen. 2 squadrons of human fighters were attacking a mock-up of a council cruiser. The fighters moved fast, staying out of the firing arcs of the enemy weapons. They hit from multiple angles, never giving the cruiser a clean shot. The simulation ended with the council ship destroyed. Gregory nodded in approval. Good. Run it again, but this time the enemy gets reinforcements. I want you to learn how to break formations. The pilots groaned but started the simulation over. They knew Gregory was tough, but they also knew he was preparing them to stay alive. Lieutenant Karen Scott was one of those pilots. She flew a fighter off the carrier Endeavour. Every day she practiced until her hands hurt and her eyes burned. She practiced emergency maneuvers. She practiced shooting while dodging incoming fire. She practiced working with her squadron to take down bigger targets. One evening, after a particularly hard training session, she sat in the mess hall with her fellow pilots. They were all exhausted. One of them, a pilot named Henry Shaw, threw down his fork. I am tired of training. When are we actually going to do something? When is the council going to make their move? Karen shook her head. Be careful what you wish for. When they come, it will be for real. No simulation. No second chances. Henry looked at her for a moment, then nodded slowly. You are right. I just hate waiting. Karen understood. They were all tired of waiting. But waiting was better than fighting before they were ready. Back on Earth, Patricia Crawford received daily reports. She knew exactly how many ships were ready. She knew exactly how many crew members had completed training. She knew the location of every human vessel in the solar system. She also received intelligence reports from the border of human space. Council ships were out there watching. Small scout vessels mostly keeping their distance. They never came close enough to threaten anyone. They just watched and waited. Patricia studied the patterns of their patrols. She could tell they were curious but cautious. They probably expected Earth to give in eventually. Sanctions and isolation were supposed to make humanity desperate. Instead, Earth had used the time to build an armada. 1 year after the first message from the Council, Patricia called a meeting of all senior commanders. They gathered in the war room deep under military headquarters. The room was filled with screens showing the position of every human ship. Patricia stood at the head of the table. She looked at each face, seeing the determination there. We have been preparing for a year, she said. We now have 4,000 warships. We have trained crews and tested weapons. We are as ready as we can be. She paused. The Council thinks they have us trapped. They think we are weak and isolated. They think if they ignore us long enough, we will come begging to join them on their terms. But they are wrong. One of the commanders, General Nathan Price, spoke up. What if they never attack? What if they just keep us isolated forever? Patricia smiled coldly. Then we will break the isolation ourselves. But I do not think it will come to that. The Council is not patient. They are used to species obeying them quickly. Our continued defiance bothers them. Eventually, they will try to force the issue. And when they do, another commander asked, what will we do? Patricia looked at the screen showing thousands of ships. We will show them that humanity does not respond to threats. We will show them that we are not helpless primitives. And we will show them that sometimes the new species can teach the old ones a lesson. The meeting ended. The commanders returned to their posts. And humanity continued to prepare. The Council wanted to ignore Earth. They wanted to pretend humanity would just go away or submit. But they were about to learn something important. Humanity had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They had built weapons and tactics through centuries of conflict. The Council might be older. They might have more species. But they had forgotten how to fight. And that might be the biggest mistake they ever made. The alarm woke Daniel Morrison from a deep sleep. He was out of bed and running for the bridge before he was fully awake. All around the Discovery, other ships were powering up their weapons. Something big was happening. When he reached the bridge, Lisa Hamilton was already there. She pointed at the main screen. Daniel felt his stomach drop. 300 ships had appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were big, they were armed, and they were not trying to hide. A message came through seconds later. Daniel played it for the crew. This is High Admiral Zelthon of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. You have refused our authority for too long. You have 24 hours to surrender. Disarm your vessels and prepare to accept Council governance. If you refuse, we will take control by force. "This is your final warning." Daniel looked at his crew. Some of them looked scared. Others looked angry. He felt both emotions himself. The council had finally come, just like everyone knew they would. But 300 ships seemed like an overwhelming force. For a moment, doubt crept into his mind. Then his communicator beeped. It was Admiral Crawford. Her face appeared on his screen, calm and confident. "Daniel, get the Discovery to the rally point. The council thinks they brought enough ships. They are about to learn they were wrong. All across the solar system, human ships were moving. They had been waiting in hiding spots, powered down and silent, behind moons and asteroid fields tucked into the shadows of planets. Now they turned on their engines and formed up into battle groups. Captain Susan Carter commanded a small stealth ship called the Whisper. For the past day, she had been watching the council fleet up close. They could not see her because her ship was designed to be invisible to their sensors. She had been sending constant reports back to command. Susan studied the enemy formation carefully. They were grouped tightly together, relying on their shields to protect them. Their weapons were powerful but slow to aim. They moved like they expected to intimidate their enemy into surrendering. They did not move like they expected a real fight. She sent one final report. "Enemy fleet is overconfident. They are not prepared for mobile combat. Recommend immediate attack." Then she moved her ship to a safe distance. The battle was about to begin, and she had the best seat in the house. On the council flagship, High Admiral Zelthon was feeling good. 300 ships was more than enough to handle these primitive humans. He had fought in dozens of enforcement actions. They always ended the same way. The target species would see his fleet, realize they were outmatched, and surrender. Then his sensor officer started shouting. "Sir, I am picking up multiple contacts. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. They are coming from everywhere." Zelthon stared at his display in disbelief. Ships were appearing all around his fleet. Human ships, thousands of human ships. He quickly tried to count them. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. The numbers kept climbing. Where did they get so many ships? How did they build an entire fleet without anyone noticing? Zelthon felt fear for the first time in decades. He tried to send a message to the human fleet. "We need to talk. We can negotiate." But the humans were done talking. Their response came in the form of missiles and railgun fire. Commander Gregory Hughes led the first attack wave. 200 destroyers accelerated to full speed, spreading out to surround the council fleet. His ship, the Falcon, shook as it fired its railguns. Solid metal slugs shot through space at incredible speed, slamming into council shields. The shields held at first, but then the missiles arrived. Hundreds of missiles, each one with a nuclear warhead. They detonated against the shields in bursts of light and radiation. The shields flickered and failed under the massive assault. More railgun rounds punched through the gaps, tearing into the council ships. Gregory watched as a council cruiser exploded. Then another, and another. The enemy was trying to return fire, but their plasma weapons were too slow. By the time they aimed at a human ship, that ship had already moved. The human fleet did not stay still. They kept moving, kept firing, kept attacking from every direction. Lieutenant Karen Scott flew her fighter through the chaos. Her squadron was assigned to harassment duty. They flew close to the council ships, firing at their weapon ports and sensor arrays. Wherever they saw damage, they made it worse. Wherever they saw a working system, they destroyed it. A council ship tried to shoot her down. She saw the plasma beam coming and rolled her fighter out of the way. The beam missed by meters. She came back around and fired her missiles at the ship's bridge. The missiles hit, and she saw explosions ripple across the enemy hull. Her communicator crackled. "Good shot, Scott. Keep it up." It was Gregory's voice. She smiled and looked for her next target. Daniel Morrison brought the Discovery into position behind a group of human battleships. His research vessel was not a warship, but it could still help. His crew used the ship's powerful sensors to track enemy movements and relay information to the attack groups. Lisa Hamilton called out enemy positions as fast as she could read them. 3 cruisers trying to break away on the left flank. 2 battleships concentrating fire on Sector 7. Daniel passed the information along, and human ships moved to respond. The battle lasted 2 hours. By the end, half of the council fleet was destroyed or crippled. The survivors were scattered and desperate. They tried to retreat, but human carriers had already launched thousands of fighters. The small craft swarmed around the fleeing ships, preventing them from jumping to faster than light speed. On his damaged flagship, High Admiral Zelthon made the hardest decision of his life. He opened a channel to the human fleet. "Please stop. We surrender. We were wrong to threaten you. Just let us leave." Admiral Crawford appeared on his screen. She looked stern but not cruel. "I am going to let you leave," she said, "and you are going to take a message back to your council. Tell them that Earth does not respond to threats. Tell them that humanity will not be bullied. And tell them that if they ever come here with hostile intent again, we will not show mercy a second time." Zelthon nodded weakly. He did not argue. He just wanted to escape with his life and whatever ships he had left. Patricia gave the order and the human fleet pulled back. The council ships limped away, heading for the edge of the system. When they were gone, Patricia let out a long breath. Around her, the command center erupted in cheers. They had done it. Earth had faced the council and won. But Patricia did not celebrate. She knew this was just the beginning. The council would not forget this defeat, and they would not forgive it. Humanity had won the first battle, but the war was far from over. News of the defeat traveled fast. Within days, every species in the galaxy knew what had happened. The council had sent an enforcement fleet to Earth. That fleet had been destroyed. Species that had obeyed the council for centuries suddenly started asking questions they had never dared to ask before. The council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from dozens of worlds shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate revenge. Others urged caution. A few wondered quietly if maybe the council had been wrong to threaten humanity in the first place. Council Speaker Miraset called for order. She was old, even by the standards of her long-lived species. She had seen the council grow from a small alliance into a galaxy-spanning power. She had never seen it challenged like this. The chamber finally quieted down. Miraset looked around at the assembled representatives. "We need to discuss what happened at Earth," she said. "And more importantly, we need to decide what we do next." Ambassador Kelvar stood up. His species, the Thronics, were known for their aggressive nature. He had been one of the strongest voices calling for action against Earth. Now his face showed both anger and fear. "We must assemble our full battle fleet," he said loudly. "Every ship from every member world. We must crush these humans before they become a greater threat. If we allow this defeat to stand, it will encourage others to defy us. The Council's authority will collapse." Several representatives nodded in agreement. But then Representative Lorani of the Valith spoke up. She was smaller than most of the beings in the chamber, but her voice carried clearly. "Ambassador Kelvar, how many ships do you think we would need? 50,000? 100,000? Kelvar looked confused. "As many as necessary. Why?" Lorani smiled sadly. "Because the humans destroyed 300 of our best ships with minimal losses. They had 4,000 ships waiting for us. How many do you think they can build if they know we are coming? How many do you think they have hidden elsewhere?" The chamber went silent. Lorani continued speaking. "I have studied the data from the battle. The humans fought unlike any species we have encountered. They used kinetic weapons, nuclear weapons, swarm tactics. They did not rely on shields and formation like we do. They attacked from everywhere at once. Our ships were not prepared for that kind of warfare." She paused. "More importantly, the humans built their entire fleet in secret while we watched. They developed weapons we did not expect. They trained for a kind of combat we have not seen in centuries. This tells us something important. They are not primitives. They are warriors who have been fighting each other for their entire history. Now they are united against us." Another representative spoke up. "Are you suggesting we do nothing?" Lorani shook her head. "I am suggesting we stop treating them like children and start treating them like equals. We sent them an ultimatum. They refused. We sent a fleet to threaten them. They destroyed it. Maybe it is time we tried actually talking to them." Kelvar slammed his hand on his desk. "Talk to them? They defied the council. They attacked our ships." Lorani's eyes narrowed. "Our ships attacked first. We gave them an ultimatum and then showed up with weapons ready. They defended themselves. Is that really so hard to understand?" The argument continued for hours. Speaker Miraset listened carefully to every voice. She knew that whatever decision the council made now would shape the galaxy for generations to come. If they attacked Earth again and lost, the council would lose all authority. But if they backed down completely, other species might think the council was weak. Finally, she stood. The chamber fell silent. "I have heard your arguments," she said, "and I have made a decision. We will not attack Earth again. Instead, we will send a diplomatic delegation to negotiate. But we will also assemble our fleet in neutral space. Not to attack, but to protect ourselves if negotiations fail. She looked directly at Kelvar. This is not surrender. This is pragmatism. The humans have proven they can defend themselves. Continuing to threaten them serves no purpose. She turned to Lorani. But this is also not acceptance. The humans must understand that they cannot simply do whatever they want. They must agree to some rules if they wish to be part of the galactic community. The vote was close, but Miraset's compromise passed. A message would be sent to Earth. This time it would be an actual invitation to negotiate, not an ultimatum. The Council would offer trade agreements, technology exchange, and membership as equals. In return, they would ask Earth to agree to basic rules about aggressive warfare and peaceful dispute resolution. Back on Earth, Admiral Crawford read the new message carefully. It was completely different from the first one. This time the Council was asking instead of demanding. They used words like partnership and cooperation instead of submission and compliance. She called an emergency meeting of Earth's leadership. The President, military commanders, and senior diplomats all gathered to discuss the offer. Some were suspicious. Others thought it was a trap. But everyone agreed it was better than the alternative of continued conflict. After hours of debate, they made their decision. Earth would send a representative to negotiate, but that representative would not go alone. A fleet would follow at a distance, ready to respond if the Council tried anything hostile. Captain Daniel Morrison was chosen for the mission. He would take a small diplomatic ship to the neutral station where talks would happen. When Patricia told him the news, he was both honored and terrified. "Admiral, I am a ship captain, not a diplomat," he protested. Patricia smiled. "Exactly, you are honest. You are brave. And you understand what humanity fought for. Those are the qualities we need right now." She handed him a data pad. "Your instructions are simple. Be respectful. Listen to their offers. But never forget what we will not compromise on: our freedom, our sovereignty, our right to defend ourselves." Daniel took the data pad and nodded. He spent the next week preparing. He studied Council customs and protocols. He read reports about every species he might meet. He practiced staying calm even when angry or afraid. On the day of departure, he stood on the bridge of his ship and looked back at Earth. The planet looked so small and fragile from space. But he knew it was neither. Earth had stood up to a galactic empire and survived. Now it was time to see if humanity could turn enemies into allies. Behind him, 50 of Earth's most powerful warships followed at a distance. They would stay hidden unless needed. Daniel hoped they would not be needed. But if the Council tried to betray humanity, they would learn that Earth never let its people face danger alone. The journey to the neutral station would take 2 weeks. Daniel spent the time thinking about what he would say. He thought about all the people counting on him. He thought about the war that could start if he failed, and he thought about the peace that could begin if he succeeded. As his ship approached the station, he took a deep breath. It was time to find out if the galaxy had room for both the old order and the new. It was time to discover if humanity could find peace without surrendering the freedom they had fought so hard to keep. The neutral station was enormous. Daniel had seen pictures, but they did not do it justice. It was bigger than any human structure, floating in space like a small moon made of metal and glass. Ships from dozens of species were docked at its ports. As his ship approached, Daniel felt his heart pounding. He was about to meet beings from across the galaxy. He would walk among aliens that humans had only dreamed about, and he would negotiate for the future of his entire species. His ship docked smoothly. Daniel straightened his uniform and headed for the airlock. Lieutenant Karen Scott and 2 other officers would accompany him as security. They were not heavily armed, but they were alert and ready for anything. The airlock opened onto a wide corridor. Standing there to greet him was Speaker Miraset herself. She was tall and graceful, with scales that shimmered in the light. Her eyes were intelligent and kind. Daniel found himself relaxing slightly. She did not look like someone planning treachery. "Welcome to Unity Station, Captain Morrison," she said. Her voice was warm, but there was weight behind it. "I am Speaker Miraset. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I apologize for how our first contact went. We made assumptions we should not have made." Daniel bowed slightly. "Thank you for the welcome, and thank you for being willing to talk. Earth also regrets the violence. We would much rather have friends than enemies." Miraset smiled. "Then perhaps we can build something better than what we had before." She led him through the station to a large chamber. Inside, representatives from across the galaxy waited. Some looked curious. Some looked hostile. Some looked afraid. Daniel understood all those feelings. He felt them himself. The negotiations began formally. Miraset spoke first, outlining the Council's position. They wanted peace. They wanted cooperation. They wanted Earth to join the galactic community. But they also wanted some basic agreements. No aggressive wars against other species. Disputes brought to the Council for mediation. Cooperation on issues that affected everyone, like piracy and disease. Daniel listened carefully. When it was his turn to speak, he chose his words with care. Earth is willing to agree to reasonable rules. We do not want to conquer anyone. We do not want unnecessary conflict. But we will not disarm. We will not limit our right to defend ourselves. And we will not accept any system where we are treated as lesser than other species. Ambassador Kelvar stood up immediately. His face showed anger. You defeated one fleet and now you think you can dictate terms to the entire council? Your species is young and arrogant. You should be grateful we are even talking to you. Daniel kept his voice calm. Ambassador, Earth did not ask for this conflict. Your council sent us an ultimatum. We responded honestly. You sent a fleet to threaten us. We defended ourselves. If anyone is being arrogant, it is those who expected us to surrender without question. Representative Lorani spoke before Kelvar could respond. Captain Morrison is right. The council made mistakes. We can argue about who is more wrong, or we can focus on building something better. She looked at Daniel. Earth wants equal treatment. That seems fair to me. The debate continued for hours. Some representatives supported Earth's position. Others opposed it. But slowly, Daniel noticed the tide shifting. More and more representatives were speaking in favor of compromise. They were tired of conflict. They wanted to find a solution. On the third day of negotiations, Miraset proposed a new structure for the council. Instead of a hierarchy where older species dominated, there would be true equality. Every species would have representation based on their population and capabilities. Earth would have a permanent seat with the same powers as the founding members. Military restrictions would be lifted. Species could maintain whatever defense forces they felt necessary. The council would only intervene if someone started an aggressive war of conquest. Trade would be open to all members. Technology and knowledge would be shared freely. It took 3 weeks of intense debate, but finally an agreement emerged. Daniel read through the treaty carefully. It was not perfect. There were still compromises he wished he did not have to make. But it protected everything truly important. Earth's sovereignty, Earth's freedom, Earth's right to chart its own course. On the day of the signing, Daniel stood in the grand chamber surrounded by representatives from across the galaxy. Miraset handed him an elegant pen.
This moment will be remembered for generations, she said quietly.
Today we prove that old and new can work together. That strength and wisdom do not have to be enemies. Daniel signed the treaty. Then Miraset signed. One by one, other representatives added their signatures. When it was done, the chamber erupted in applause. Not everyone was happy. Kelvar left without signing, showing his disapproval. But most of the galaxy had chosen peace over pride. After the ceremony, Miraset asked to speak with Daniel privately. They walked to an observation deck that looked out at the stars. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. Your species did something remarkable, Captain. You forced us to change. For centuries, the Council has maintained order through intimidation. We told ourselves it was for the greater good. But really, it was just easier than treating everyone as equals. You proved that our way had limits, and you did it without destroying everything we built. Daniel looked out at the stars. With respect, Speaker, Earth just wanted to be free. We did not set out to change the galaxy. We just refused to let anyone else control us. Miraset smiled. And that refusal changed everything anyway. That is often how real change happens. Daniel returned to his ship the next day. As Earth came into view, he felt overwhelming relief. He had done it. He had secured peace without surrendering freedom. The treaty was not perfect, but it was honest. And it was built on mutual respect rather than fear. When he landed, Admiral Crawford was waiting. She read the treaty in silence, then looked up with a smile. You did well, Captain. Earth can be proud. Daniel shook his head. Earth can be proud of everyone who stood firm. I just signed the papers. News of the treaty spread across Earth within hours. Cities erupted in celebration. Humanity had secured its place among the stars, not as subjects or servants, but as equals who had earned respect through courage and strength. In the weeks that followed, human ships began exploring beyond the solar system with council blessing. Scientists from Earth met with scientists from other worlds. Engineers exchanged ideas. Artists shared their work. Slowly, carefully, humanity began to integrate into the wider galactic community. But the fleet remained ready. Earth's ships patrolled human space, a reminder that humanity would never again be helpless. Admiral Crawford made sure every ship was maintained and every crew was trained. Peace was wonderful, but it needed to be protected. Captain Susan Carter took her stealth ship on the first deep space exploration mission. She traveled to systems humanity had never seen, meeting species that had only been names in council records. Everywhere she went, people knew about Earth. They knew the story of how humans had refused the council's ultimatum and arrived with an overwhelming fleet. That story became legend. Young species looked to it as inspiration. Old species saw it as a cautionary tale. And everyone understood the lesson. New voices could still shake the foundations of power. Change was still possible. And sometimes the best path to peace was to demonstrate the capacity for war while having the wisdom to choose negotiation instead. Years later, Daniel Morrison retired from active service. He became an ambassador, helping to build bridges between Earth and other worlds. Sometimes he would meet young officers who asked him about the negotiations. They wanted to know if he had been afraid. He always told them the truth. Yes, he had been terrified, but fear did not matter. What mattered was doing the right thing even when afraid. What mattered was standing up for principles even when easier to compromise them. What mattered was remembering that freedom was worth fighting for, worth risking everything to preserve. Earth had found its place among the stars, not through submission, not through conquest, but through the courage to refuse injustice and the wisdom to build peace from the ashes of conflict. And that was a legacy worth more than any empire.